Okay, we're streaming now. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Lee, and I'm the Administrative Consultant for the Community Preservation Committee. The time now is, it's only 5:59, so we're a minute early. Tonight's presentation is the second of three for applicants to present a 5-minute presentation on the project that they have sent into the committee for consideration. We will continue to meet live remotely until further notice. If you need to send us an email, please send one to cpc@springfieldcityhall.com if you have any questions or comments on the applications that you see tonight. The chair of our committee is Bob McCarroll, and I'll turn the meeting over to him so he can call it to order. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Well, thank you. I can't call it to order yet because I'm only seeing 4 of us and we need 5 of us. So is someone here other than Gloria and Steve and Yolanda? No. So we'll wait a few minutes. I can certainly start my welcome to everyone. Thank you for being part of tonight's presentation. We have with us tonight, the Community Preservation Committee members. There's Juanita, who represents, Juanita's not here. Gloria, who represents the Planning Board. Steve Bosworth, who is a neighborhood representative.
Did you cut out, Bob? I think so. Don't know where he left off. Yolanda Cancel is with us. She represents the neighborhood representative. Rhonda Sherrill is a neighborhood representative, as well as, okay, so we're all thrown off our game here. I think we got everyone. Can you hear me?
I'm here, Karen.
Hi,
how are you?
Good.
We have everyone, Karen.
We do. Okay.
Yeah, but we're still one short.
Do we have a quorum? I
No.
can't tell. I'm going to turn this off. Okay.
And I
think
think
we lost
Bob logged out. Oh, there he is.
He might have got kicked.
I think he's connecting to his iPhone.
Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. We'll just go with dead air, I guess, for now. Well, we do have a quorum, right? 1,
No.
2, 3. No.
There, I'm back.
Good.
And I can be visible, heard. Okay. I have no idea what happened at my end. I hate technology. So this is the second of 3 meetings that we have with applicants. This is the 7th funding cycle. This is the biggest funding cycle we've ever had. I think there are 32 or 33 proposals asking for more than $1 million worth of assistance, $6 million worth of assistance. And we have about $2.5 million that we can recommend to City Council. So we have some difficult decisions to make as we go through the process. The process is we will meet with the last group at our beginning of April meeting. Then we will start our own internal deliberations that usually take about 3 meetings. Then we send our recommendations to the City Council. We cannot predict how long they take to act on it. And then it goes to the law department for contracts. So it's still a process that's anywhere from 5 to 7 months before we're completed. I'm hopeful that we may finish our part of the process by early June. but we don't know. So as we start tonight's presentation, many of you have been here before. It's a 5-minute presentation, timed. Gloria is the timer. And then it's followed by questions from the committee, if they have any. So with that, Clinton Harris, who represents the Park Department, is joining us, and we now have a quorum. Hey, Clinton. So we start off with the Indian Orchard Fire Station, and Brian,
Excuse me, Bob.
Yep.
Clinton cannot get video or voice, but he can hear us.
Okay.
So I'm telling him just to email through the chat, and I'll keep checking it if he has questions.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Gloria. So perhaps it's not me. Maybe it's that update that Zoom did is screwing things up.
Could be.
All right. Anyway, so Brian, are you the presenter for the Indian Orchard Fire Station?
I am Chairman McCarroll. I'm ready.
All right, take it away.
I'm going to share screen if that's okay. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
I hope. All right. I'm sorry, I can't see him by the top of my screen here. We'll just go with this. This is actually, so thanks for having me. Brian Connors from the City of Springfield Economic Development Office. I was here last year with a request for the preservation of the Indian Orchard Fire Station. And at that time indicated it would be a multi-year request. And so that is why we have entered in another application for the project, which we expect to be a total budget of about $4 to $5 million to fully rehabilitate the building. Last year, we requested $250,000, which was awarded for doors and windows and exterior elements, which is in design now. And this year, we are requesting $300,000 for the elevator portion of the project, which will allow for ADA access. Ultimately, the use of the property would be for a community center-like uses with hand in hand with the Indian Orchard Citizens Council. And I see Councilor Govan on the call as well, who has been working with us diligently for the last year plus on this project. Quickly on the building, as you can see on that first slide, built in 1897, Gardner Pine and Gardner building, operated as a fire station until the 1960s. It was then used as a city workshop for a couple of decades after that, and it's been unused for the past decade. We think it's an important, iconic building in Indian Orchard. It's an important preservation project for Indian Orchard, and we think it's a great CPA project for not only preservation, but geography-wise in terms of getting into Indian Orchard and saving a building that really has meaning in terms of sense of place. Quickly, just kind of the vision of the project. Multi-story, multiple uses, computer lab, health uses, art, cultural, performance, event space. So we're working with the community on kind of the final footprint of that. We've gotten into design with our architect, which we expect to be completed in the next 60 days or so. In the last few months, we've been cleaning the building out, environmental remediation. There was a great amount of pigeon guano in the building, as you might imagine. So it's been all swept clean, and now we're into final design. These are kind of the conceptuals that if you were on the call last year, you remember from last year, and sort of the vision behind preserving the space and making it into a very vibrant community building for the Indian Orchard Citizens Council. And that's really all I have.
You have 2 minutes left.
Oh, well, boy. I would like to, I guess, add if Councilor Govan has anything to add in terms of the importance for the council. I'd like to, give my minute and a half left to Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to the whole committee. This building has been sitting in Indian Orchard vacant for a very long time. The Indian Orchard Citizens Council has been eyeing it for maybe 10 years, and the community would love to see it come back to life. We've had a couple of community meetings where the community came out, and they're very excited for it to be a community center. As most of you all know, there's no senior center in Indian Orchard. There's no youth, boys and girls club. So we want to have a space for the youth, the seniors, and like Brian said, some offices upstairs, maybe doing some education, doing some co-op education. It's just a really exciting project, and I really look forward to having it completed one piece at a time, I guess. Thank you.
And I should mention, in terms of the overall project, the city has committed $1.5 million in ARPA funding to this project, and that's what has been used so far in the cleanup and what will be used in the initial build out, along with the first award from CPA for the doors and windows.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Brian and I and the committee is talking about a capital campaign that we're going to be launching hopefully soon, to gather money from the community, because like I said, the community is very excited. Some other big partners that might be able to give a little bit more than the community can give. So we're on the road. I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
25 seconds.
Thank you.
Can have them back.
We'll give you the 25 seconds back.
So, any committee members have questions?
I do. Bob?
So just, Steve, did you have a question?
I did, go ahead. On this, Brian, thank you for your presentation. I've looked at the plans here. I'm trying to figure out, are you bumping out a new space, or are you using existing walls to close the elevator? And is it close to where the tower is? Is that where it's going to be?
Yeah, so there's hope. We don't have the final answer on that. We have an estimated cost based on standard elevators and buildings of this age. The architect is looking at that issue like literally right now. He was in the building 2 weeks ago. The hope is to use an existing space like the tower that we don't really have a reuse for, but it will be a determination of whether we can functionally make that work and if it's the right size for ADA and those types of things.
So if you need to do a bump out, a bigger bump out, it might increase your ancillary costs, correct?
Correct. I mean, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I think I would be at this point. I don't have enough information on that, but it would probably add to those costs.
No. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yolanda, do you have a question?
Yes. How much more funding is needed to complete the entire project, like a ribbon cutting and open? What is left that is needed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now like I said, we've got the 1.5 million committed from the city. We've got 250 committed from CPA. We're requesting 300. That gets us to about half of what's needed. We plan on going in again. We went in last year. We're going in again for state funding through the One Stop Underutilized Properties Program, which you can request. They've done awards of up to $1 million. And then, as Councilor Govan mentioned, there's hope to a private capital campaign in Indian Orchard where there are some companies that are interested in putting in. But this is very much something that we're putting together with our bootstraps and kind of piecing the funding together in a phased approach. And the first phase is really making sure we preserve the building, getting the building envelope sealed, and kind of going from the outside in.
Brian, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the ARPA money that's been given and the 2023 CPA 250,000, is that enough to do all of the outside envelope?
We think so. We think that's really the stabilization budget, I would call it, for exterior improvements, stabilizing the building. There's been a substantial, I guess, degradation of the iron and the steel underneath the garage bays from years of fire trucks coming in and salt and just draining underneath the building. So there's a good amount of work that has to happen under the garage bays to stabilize, but we feel pretty comfortable with our stabilization budget that we're pretty much there with the ARPA funding and the CPA funding to button the building up exterior wise and make sure we're stabilized. And then the kind of other half of the building funding is sort of the interior build out budget.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more.
Yeah.
My question is, so I know that you have the collaboration between the city. I'm just looking at a form here. So Emily Kawano by Grow.io. So this is not just going to be Indian Orchard Citizens Council. It's going to be a huge collaboration between all of those. Are those all the stakeholders that are going to help put money in and help with restoring the building back to its opening, which is, I guess, Wellspring, Greater New Life, Orchard Covenant, IO Library, Survival Center, and a few others?
Yeah, I would. Councilor Govan, do you want to speak to the community partnership?
Sure, yeah. So those are community partnerships. Two of those are churches. One is the Survival Center. Wellspring Cooperative has the greenhouse in Indian Orchard. And what we're all doing is we're bringing Grow.io into what is going to be the community center. The IOCC will be a seat at a table. So that partnership is going to be basically what runs the community center. And we're hoping, you know, if they can give some money, that'd be great, but they're going to be part of the capital campaign once we start that.
Final question now. If this is a collaboration, could there be a problem with one day this building being taken from IOCC, or is it still going to be city owned and run? And how is that going to look if we understand that things break up, arguments happen, we see it all the time around community? How do we know to ensure that the community is always going to benefit from this building?
Yeah,
And that
also,
would be all.
yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Also a great question. The long-term plan is that the city remains owner and the community is the tenant.
Mm-hmm. Right. And IOCC will ultimately be there. I think we're planning on actually moving over there, moving the offices over there. So we'll have 2 spaces, but it is the community space. So the community owns it, so to speak.
Okay, any other questions? I guess I just have one final question, Brian, is as you're looking for money, is it possible that the build out could be in phases? Meaning once the outside is buttoned up and restored, could you, if you're having trouble raising the rest of the money, can you do the first floor, put the first floor in use, and then cross the bridge when you find the money for the second floor?
I think that's the reality of the project, Bob. But yeah, I think that's how we're kind of operating, is we're trying to find sort of those tranches of money to do kind of big things at a time. So yeah, ultimately I think it's going to have to be phased. And I think, like I said, the first phase is really the exterior and stabilizing. And then, yeah, it may not be that we get the second half of the funding for full interior build out all at once. It may be that we do that first floor first, and then, so we're trying to nail those big things. And this one's really important. Obviously the elevator, the use of the second floor is impossible without getting the elevator funded. So we want to make sure we get that kind of in the upfront phase as well.
Okay. Any other questions? If not,
Yes.
oh,
One
yeah.
one more. Just piggybacking off of Bob. If so happen, as Bob had stated earlier, we have a lot of applicants. This is one of our biggest things. If you happen to not receive the full fund, is that going to put a halt on what it is that you guys to do to help with that, fix that elevator and get it up and working? Or is there playable funds in there that would help with the CPA as well as other funds?
It will, I would say will slow us down, is I think the fair answer. I would say you'd probably see us again next year asking for a similar item, if it's not that exactly.
Well, and Brian, to be honest, I think that you will definitely see us next year, whether we get these funds or not, because I think we're gonna need to be able to come back for the next couple of years at least to continue doing the work in there. Everybody knows that, you know, I have these big plans and big dreams, but we need money, so we'll be back.
Yeah, I mean,
I would just caution you that, you know, CPA, we can help you because you're a historic resource.
Right.
Restoring and preserving the outside is certainly eligible. Handicap access is eligible. Build out of the interior, I'm not sure if it's eligible, but if it's eligible, it's not certainly not as high a priority. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, we understand
may
that.
have to come back, but I don't know what our
Yeah,
answer
we'll be
is.
back.
Okay.
yeah, and I guess I would also just add we've done. I think I talked about the history last year, but for those that weren't there, our department ended up with 4 fire stations that were being decommissioned, and we put all of them out to the private market. This one was put out 3 times to the private market without a successful bidder. The other 3 were all developed by private developers. This one has been a little more difficult. It's a little bigger. It's a little more complex, and that's the reason we're doing this today.
Okay, anything else? Hearing none, we will move on. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Appreciate your being here.
My pleasure.
All right.
All right, thank you.
The next proposal is regarding the Demore Museum of Fine Arts. So Rachel?
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. And thank you to all the committee members. My name's Rachel. I'm the grants manager at the Springfield Museums, and we are extremely grateful for this committee and for the transformative, impactful work that you've had for the museums and for all of these worthy projects across the city. So thank you very much. Our first proposal is a request of $300,000 for the Demore Museum of Fine Arts. This is the 3rd phase of work being done. The 3 main components of the total project, including all phases, have addressed a restoration of the doorway, a cleaning of the limestone, and the replacement of the original windows, an in-kind replacement. So in this 3rd phase, the full $300,000 is being requested to address the window replacement. That is the most significant expense of these components. It's over $900,000. And the first 2 phases of support have helped us to address the replacement on the chestnut side and the quad side, but this 3rd phase is addressing the Yertle the Turtle side and the side facing the church. I actually will share my screen just so that you have that visual. Let me just do that. And so here you can see the north side. This is the Yertle the Turtle side, is the side with the most amount of windows and therefore the greatest expense. We are using Hope's window in Jamestown, New York. Because this is our 3rd round with the CPA, you may recall that initially we had planned to do a repair of the original windows, but it was once we got into the removal of the windows and addressing the lead paint and various components of the removal that our facilities director learned that there was no comparable inexpensive way to, or there is no inexpensive way to address these windows, and that as you might recall from the first round, we actually did change the plan from a repair to an in-kind replacement so that we can gain the advantage of the environmental protections. So we would be using the Old World Suite with thermal evolution technology, and this has been approved previously by the preservation consultant used by the CPA. I should mention, as many of you know, but in case anyone is new, the need that this is addressing. As a museum, we have very specific temperature and moisture levels that we need to maintain all year round. And in New England, you can imagine that is quite a challenge. So these windows, in addition to, as you can see, appearing to be very chipped and in need of replacement, they have also caused leaking and drafts, and we run many dehumidifiers and humidifiers, but really there's no improvement to sealing the building envelope that would have a greater impact than the replacement of these windows and with this new thermal technology. I should also mention that that the total budget is over $1.2 million for all three phases. In addition to that, we have another $500,000 expense addressing a replacement of the roof, which is also the intention is to fully seal the building envelope and help with our environmental protections within the building for the building itself and the collections within. So I'll stop my share there, and I think I addressed what I needed to, and I'm happy to just open it up for questions.
All right. So, Gloria,
Are you going to do the Science Museum?
No,
I
that'll
think
be
I'll-
separate.
Yeah.
That's a separate proposal.
Okay.
So I just have a question, Rachel. On the east and west windows, they're not in yet, are they?
Not yet. The Chestnut Street side is being fabricated currently. And I will have to check with Sean on the date of their installation, but I do think it is soon. And then the next phase is the quad side. So he's got an order in for those as well.
It would be helpful if you could just give us an approximate date. I know things change as to when the east and west windows are going to actually be in.
The hope is before this November, because Sean is aware that is the
okay.
timeline.
Yeah.
But my greater hope is it would be sooner than that, but I'm pretty sure we're on timeline to complete within the time frame we submitted with CPA.
I see. Okay. Any other questions from committee members? Steve?
Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. I just had a quick question, which was kind of not related to the windows per se, but I understand that part of your renovations will involve cleaning the limestone or whatever that surface is. Is that better done before the new windows are put in, or does it make any difference in that regard?
Yeah, thank you for asking. That is also on schedule to hopefully be completed before November.
Yeah.
I think it is a good question. I honestly haven't heard anything about it conflicting with the windows. And a different consideration would be the roof. I've heard that like perhaps doing the roof first and then the limestone cleaning after might be a better order. But the truth is that we've experienced I think I neglected to say that the building overall is over 90 years old, including those windows being over 90 years old. So there's been a long time with this building and a long time of patterns of the accumulated debris on the limestone and the various removals of it. So I think I can check back with our facilities director and follow up, but I don't think it's been determined that that anything needs to wait for the limestone
Oh,
cleaning.
it's not a gate to the windows. Okay, just
Yeah.
curious. See, I would think, if you're doing some spraying and you get stuff on the new windows, better get it on the old windows, on the new windows, that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know what to do. They probably do a very careful, meticulous job of not, mass spraying. I have no idea how they clean it.
Okay, any other questions from committee members?
Comment. It's just been fun time, Rachel, going through this process with you and getting from one phase to another. It's good to see the work that you guys are doing down there, that is progressing so nicely. Of course, we like to see it progress even quicker if at all possible as well. So
Same.
keep up the good work, okay?
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate your hanging with us through these phases, and it really is so transformative, and it wouldn't be possible without your help. So thank you.
Okay, so hearing no other questions, the next one will be the Science Museum, also presented by Rachel.
Sure. So this is a more modest request for the Science Museum patio. We are requesting $62,500, and this project will address a couple components. First, it would be the restoration of that superfluous door to the left of the exit that was once a window, and our plan is to restore it back to a window, also using Hope's Window, the same provider who's helping with the D'Amour Museum of Fine Arts. The other component of this project is to address masonry repair needs. And the best way for me to demonstrate that is by sharing my screen again and showing you these images. So, go back. So here you can see the door that we plan to replace, restore back to its original window.
And Rachel, what was that used for? There were stairs there at one time?
So the building overall is from 1899, but in 1933 an addition was made, and that is when the exit door, which you can kind of sorry, I'm not showing you the best photos because this is of the damage, but this patio that we're addressing is predominantly the exit door. It was once the entrance, but then in 2004 there was a big remodel of the Welcome Center, which is attached to the building, and that's when this door popped up as part of that change. But I couldn't tell you if it was ever functional or not, or if it was I actually don't know the answer to that. I know that it was a product of that 2004 Welcome Center remodel.
All right.
So we have a number of masonry repairs needed. You can see some of it involves a need to repoint and fill, and as you're familiar with this story in New England, when it rains and it gets into the cracks and it freezes and expands, it has led to a lot of gaps in the stonework. So some of it is a need for repointing, other needs are for the cleaning of the stonework itself. We have a railing that has been attached to the building itself, and it caused like a fracturing of the stone. So this is where an area where it needs to be replastered. And in fact, another component of this is replacing these handrails with ones that are mounted into the steps so that it's no longer attached to the building side, which would no longer contribute to damage like this. And then you can see this is another area that needs repointing with really large gaps between the stone on the steps on the exit. We we'll be working with Atlantic Diversified Mason Contractors. They're the same vendor and company who has worked on the Kilroy House restoration with us. So they're very trusted relationship for the museums, and also working with Holdfast Welding on the railings, we worked with on the George Walter Vincent Smith Museum. So yeah, I think that we are asking the 62,500 would address the full budget for these repairs. And that is about all I have.
Okay. Any questions from committee members?
Yes. Are you seeking funding or extra funding for any of these projects? Or is the CPA the only grant application you have submitted?
For the Science Museum patio, we're asking for the full amount to address the components I just went through. So 62,500 would address the restoration of the window and the preservation of the masonry.
Any other questions from committee members?
Yeah, one quick one. If you happen to not receive the full amount that you budgeted this for, will this put a halt on the continuance of the projects?
It would definitely slow things down. Yeah, but it would allow us more time to seek other funding, and to possibly return next year. This is actually we have come to the CPA with projects addressing this patio in the past, and this is a more modest request than we've made in the past, which would have been a full redo of the floor and an addition of a ramp. So this is really addressing some of the more immediate needs and the ones that hit most closely to the CPA priorities to restore and preserve.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands up, but thank you, Rachel. And we'll move on to the next presentation, which is 60 Byers Street. Tina.
Hi there, good evening. So I'm here on behalf of the City of Springfield. This proposal was submitted for the purposes, and it's a little different than a lot of the other proposals. The idea here is to utilize the CPA funding as an incentive to attract a developer to come in and develop the property. So the city had previously we foreclosed on the property for the non-payment of taxes. We had put it out several times for RFP. We ultimately got a buyer. That buyer did not complete the rehab. The city recorded the reverter deed, took the property back. And in the meantime, the property has continued to deteriorate. It is on the Preservation Trust list of most endangered properties. It has been targeted by folks attempting to get in and folks camping out at the property. The city has taken lots of efforts to keep it secure and to keep folks out of the property, but we are definitely facing a large battle here. So the idea is the CPA funding would be advertised with the RFP to try and attract developers. Developers would put in proposals to the city. They would be evaluated, and assuming that we get a developer, this CPA funding would ultimately go towards the redevelopment of the property, but it would at least secure some funding to try and get a developer. So somewhat similar to what the CPA approved with the Itondale property. However, this wouldn't be affordable housing, so we wouldn't be able to commit home funding. I think it's also important to note that the city had previously committed federal funding to the development of the property years ago, and so that sort of eliminates our ability to do that again. So I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have questions.
Tina, I have a couple.
Sure.
So what will the city be putting the building out for as the base price?
I think we would put it out probably for $1,000.
And price would not be irrelevant. We wouldn't want people bidding up the price.
Right.
In terms of, because they wanted the money.
Correct. So we would lay out evaluation criteria on how the proposal would be reviewed. Obviously, we're required to include one of our evaluation criteria is typically the financial benefit, which factors in purchase price, but also factors in the property being placed back on the tax rolls and, minimizing the use of public funds. So sort of taking in all of the financial considerations. And then it would be expected that the developer would put together the remaining funding sources to see the development through to the end.
The other thing is on, if you could sort of give me sort of a timetable. I'm assuming that the RFP would not go out until at least we've recommended and city council approves. But
yeah, exactly.
What is kind of then the time frame? Because I know that sometimes city RFPs have a very short response time.
Yeah, so I think, recognizing that, I do think the city is quite nervous that we may not attract developers, which is why we're here asking for this money in anticipation of that. So I would think that we would probably put it out for about 60 days, unless the committee wanted us to put it out for longer than that. Sometimes the state requires that it go out for a minimum of 30 days. But I don't think we have any objection to doubling that to try and get some more proposals. I think our other goal would be to try and do as much publicity around it as we could. So that would include, press releases, putting it on our social media, things like that, making sure flyers are posted in public places, reaching out to any past developers that might have some kind of interest.
Okay. So Clinton, you have a question?
Yes, hi Tina. And
Hi.
so your hopes is that it would be developed as a residential, or is it actually still zoned as well for the potential, for the possibility of business going in there?
So this is again part of the complication of this property. It had previously had, I believe, 5 units, but it is actually only legally zoned for 3 residential units. So I think we would be looking for a developer to come in with a proposal for those 3 residential units, or to go and seek approval from the city to change that.
Okay.
So Tina,
Thank you.
one of the things is in the budget, the firm that produced the budget had things listed by classification code, which I found not terribly helpful in that, we CPA, when we're involved, we tend to stay either with the outside envelope of the building, or if there has to be like some structural stabilization, we'll go inside for stabilization. Could you get us something that is that tells us what are the exterior costs for this building?
Yeah, I'm sure we could try to come up with something. Yeah, I would have to go through it in detail and talk to the folks that did the report. You'll also notice that the report, included prevailing wage and items like that. And I did back that out of the
Yes.
budget.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me, I'll see if we can put together something along those lines
Yeah.
to get you at least
And
a
it could be a
breakdown.
rough budget, but something that sort of says roof stabilization and replacement, window replacement, masonry work, that as opposed to our having to go through whether that happened to fall under metals or whether it fell under wood or whatever it was. But it would be helpful for us to get a sense of scope of what exterior work it is. Okay.
Sure.
Any other questions?
This is Steve. I have a question. Tina, let me try to understand. I'm a neophyte on this, fairly new on the committee, so I haven't worked with incentives before, so I'm not quite sure how it works. But I'm just looking at your total project budget, which is the 3.5 million, is a good faith estimate of what it would cost to bring this dwelling back to its functional shape and as a 3-unit apartment building.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, I assume if I'm a developer, I see the $300,000. That's 8% of the total cost. I'm going to be tuned in. I'm going to have to be tuned into a massive array of other incentive programs, tax breaks, whatever. That's going to get me to a market right for this place, right? Yeah, my projections for a 3-unit home. Yeah, I'm not gonna get my $3.5 million back in several lifetimes. So, is that what you're thinking too? I mean, anybody who's going to do this is going to have the background, say, okay, I know how to tap this, this, and this, and the 300,000 that we would be providing up front is sort of like dangling out there. That's not a huge amount compared to the whole cost, but enough to sort of get your interest and get you into it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I do think a project like this is not possible without significant public subsidy.
Yeah.
And that's assuming it is possible. So yes, I think our anticipation is that whomever the developer is would have to demonstrate capacity to be able to put together the financing and complete a project like this. And that would also be one of the evaluation criteria that we are reviewing any proposal by.
Actually, I just think that, at $1 million per unit, that's an awfully high cost. I understand the significance of the building, but it's just astounding. And Bob, maybe you can help me with this, the 300,000. Do we have another go at it in terms of what it's actually used for within the context of the development itself, or is that out of our hands at that point?
No, I mean, clearly we would be saying, we'll put 300,000 toward exterior work. Choose the roof, the walls, the windows,
Okay,
all
so
of those things, once the developer is chosen, their proposal for the roof, the walls, the windows, whatever CPA is paying for, would have to go to our preservation consultant to make sure they conform to the Secretary of the Interior standards. And I'm assuming that the way, but Tina, correct me, that at some point the developer says to you, I'm now, once they get control of the building, you're just not giving them a blank check. They're coming to you and saying, we're ready to do the roof, give us the 100,000, let's say the roof costs, or they, out of their own financing, do the roof, and they come back to you and say, we've now done the roof, please reimburse us the 300, 100,000 of the 300.
Yes, so that's basically how it works. And I think to add to that, if a developer needed an advance, of funding, we would require that basically what we're advancing them is a portion of the costs, and that they're providing us a copy of their contract with the contractor, or if they're acting as their own contractor. So if they're not acting as their own contractor, they're providing us a copy of the contract with the contractor that outlines what the deposit is that is required, and that's the amount that we're advancing them, or the percentage that needs to be paid up front. If they're serving as their own contractor, then we would do basically progress payments where they're making, they're starting the work and we're advancing them a portion of that. Or if they wanted a materials payment, we could do that, but they need to show us some sort of supporting documentation to support that. And we would always hold back some form of retainage to ensure that it gets completed.
And obviously, one would be also, if by some chance, even you get the incentive, it goes out, there is no response from a qualified developer, the money comes back to CPA.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's also the other piece, like if we do get a developer, but they end up not moving forward, the money comes back. Like the money doesn't get paid out until the actual work happens or is contracted to happen.
Which is how CP, just so that committee members remember that, which is how whenever we work with a group like the drama studio, they ended up doing the work first. We inspect it. They show us that they paid their contractor. We then send them a reimbursement. So in no case do we up the CPA upfront the money like, oh, here's the blank check. Hope you do what you say we're going to do. Okay.
Often the way the city handles it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would treat this very similar to the way that we treat federal community development block grant funds. It would be very similar. Yeah.
Well, and Itondale is a good example. It was just to refresh people's memory, it was 104,000, I think, from CPA. The home program threw in another 104,000. And that was then an incentive to fix a vacant, deteriorated house, not nearly as deteriorated and not nearly as big, but and there is indeed, my understanding is Concerned Citizens of Springfield, that has a very good track record, was the successful developer on the RFP and is starting work sometime soon.
Yes, we're getting very close to closing with them. So, and our hope is that work will kick off pretty quickly once we close.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, Gloria?
Yeah, I'm wondering,
Sweetie,
what are the chances of you getting a response to the RFP if in the past you've had difficulty?
It's really hard for me to say now without putting it out and having some understanding of the calls that are coming in. I will say we're definitely a little nervous about this, just because of the level of deterioration and the investment that's needed here.
nobody wants it. And so Tina, so and there's no guarantee at all that this is actually going to become affordable housing.
Right. I mean, I do think so. We're not coming to the committee asking for affordable housing.
Right.
We're coming under the historic preservation category. But it could, I mean, I think it all depends. So
Why not look for stabilization of the building as opposed to going out for the RFP or using that as an incentive money?
in terms of bringing a developer in to stabilize the building, or for the city to stabilize the building?
Bring a developer in to stabilize the building or whatever, just to stabilize the building. Would that make it more attractive?
So I think the city doing stabilization work is going to both massively increase the cost and also because we have to
Yeah,
pay
but still,
prevailing
a few million
wages
dollars.
and yeah, I mean, we have to pay prevailing wages and we have to go through public procurement. It's very different. I think the other piece is the goal here, the city is, I don't think I need to tell anyone this, the city's not a great landlord. We're not good at owning property, and our goal is to not own property like this for the long haul. Our goal is to get it out to a developer who will either sell it to someone that will live there or sell it or rent it. I think those are our goals. And I don't think us owning the property for the long haul is a good option here.
Any other questions from committee members? All right, so we'll move on to the next one, which is Tina will be presenting on 174 and 176 Maple Street. I just want to first give committee members some background because the rest of the presentations tonight are on the 6 row houses at 174 through 184 Maple Street. These had been in separate ownership over the years in various states of disrepair. The city foreclosed on the 2 closer to the Colony Court apartment building. They put it out for RFP. There was a developer who received the RFP. He privately purchased the other 4. He did not perform for the city, and they retook the 2 tax foreclosed buildings that they owned. He has then sold the remaining 4 that were not related to the city to Paul, who will be presenting after Tina. And several years ago, we recommended CPA money for this project when it was in the hands of a private developer. And once that deal fell apart, we took our money back. Was never spent, we took it back. So that's just sort of the overview of the 6 buildings that you're now going to see as part of the rest of tonight's presentation. So with that, Tina, take it away. And so Gloria can time you, are you choosing to do the 2 together or the 2 separate?
I will do them together just because I think there's so much similarity here,
Okay.
commonality. Right, each row house is its own separate property, which is very confusing to a lot of folks. So Bob did a lot of the background here. The other piece that I will say is there was recently a large and significant fire on this corner row house. And you can see that the city has now tarped the roof. But that is obviously adding to our concern. This building also is on the Preservation Trust list of most endangered properties. And again, as you can see from what we submitted, it is believed that there is a need for significant financial investment in order to bring these 2 buildings, to restore them and to bring them to code. I should also mention that the city cannot put additional, so oftentimes when we have historic buildings like this, we have put CDBG funding towards, much like we're asking the CPA to do, toward exterior repairs. We can't do that here for a couple of reasons. One being the number of units would require that the entire project then be treated as prevailing wage, which would massively increase the costs. Additionally, some years ago, the city did invest money in the immediate stabilization of the building with the prior developer that we had sold it to. And you can actually see some of those measures here in the new wooden posts that hold up the porches, and there had been some money invested to stay because the stairs were crumbling and the sidewalks were crumbling in, so there was some money to shore that up and to do some structural work around the around the foundation of the building. So that, again, because the city CDBG funding can't be used in any way that is viewed as maintenance, you sort of get one bite at the apple here. So we're coming to the CPA asking for $300,000 per row house, again, to serve as an incentive to attract a developer to put in a proposal for each row house. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tina, just like in Buyer Street, the architects have lumped the budget under industrial classification codes or whatever. It would be helpful if you could just get us roof repair, window repair, masonry repair, door repair, and if there's interior stabilization that has to be done, so we're not wading through the
Sure.
variety of other things that we tend not to get involved in.
Yeah, sure. So let me, like I said on Buyer Street, let me go through it with our internal folks and the folks that did the report and see if we can't get you something that gives you some numbers, even if they're a little bit rough around just the exterior work.
Great. All right. And we would want that by mid-April,
Sure.
if possible. The sooner the better. All right. Any other questions from committee members? No, I'm not. Tina, if you can unshare, then I can see the
Sure.
rest of the committee. See if anyone got any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. So the next presentation is Paul, and you're deciding, Paul, you're doing it all together, or do you want to do each one individually?
It's probably easier just to do them all together. There are
Okay.
some nuances between the two, but I'll explain that in the slideshow.
Very good. So take it away.
All right. Let me just try to share my screen. Here we go. All right. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Great.
You gonna start with 178, Paul?
Yeah, so I guess it'll be helpful because they are very confusing builds
you.
and setups, as Tina mentioned. So I'll start with the lower number and go up to the higher number. So 178 is the one most directly adjacent to the city-owned properties next door. And then as the numbers go up on the even side of the street, we'll get closer to the corner of Central Street, directly across from the old McDuffie. So I'll start with 178, just for sake of clarity on which direction we're moving as you're looking at the front of the buildings. So just a quick little background on myself and my partners on this. I'm in real estate. I'm a Springfield resident. I'm actually on the Conservation Commission and do some other kind of local volunteer stuff. I'm primarily a commercial real estate broker based in downtown Springfield. I have my CSL and quite a few other building and industry real estate related type credentials. I've done a handful of pretty major renovations personally. I have a small portfolio of primarily residential properties in the area. And I've also had some pretty hands-on experience with historic properties, more so as being a broker for them and finding developers and buyers to do adaptive reuse projects. My partner, primary partner, Nick Turnberg, we are the two members of the LLC that holds the 4 properties. Local tree company and landscaper. He's actually on the East Long Meadow Conservation Commission. Also owns a local portfolio of different properties, mainly residential, and has some significant experience hands-on personally with pretty major restorations and rehabs of different kinds of properties. So starting with 178 Maple, again, the one most directly next door to 176, which is the city-owned property. This is what I'd call one of the 2 decent buildings of the 4. The 2 which I'll get to, are in really, really bad shape. And then 2 of them are in kind of mixed condition, but not horrible. 178 being one of them. There is one tenant currently, an attorney who's been there for decades. He's actually the previous owner. He still practices on the 2nd floor. His unit is in very good shape. It is technically a commercial unit, but it really is a glorified, oversized studio apartment. It has a full kitchen, full bathroom. And the plan eventually will be to convert that to residential, most likely. He's not going anywhere for now. He wants to be there. He's a great tenant. He keeps an eye on things, but he does understand that eventually, sooner or later, that will be turned into a residential dwelling. Some pretty major structural and exterior issues with 178. We found out a day or 2 after we closed on them that there's a basement wall, the front wall facing Maple Street, that's failing significantly, mainly because of an old coal chute that was never properly abandoned or removed. So basically, decades of water from the street has been going into the basement and blowing out the brick wall. So that will have to be addressed. The 1st and 3rd floor units, which were truly residential units when they were last occupied, need a complete overhaul. I wouldn't call it necessarily gut rehab, but they do need significant renovation, mostly cosmetically and some mechanicals in this building. And then what we're here for today, obviously the exterior work, which for this building and most of the others is actually the major cost for restoration. The back porches on this building, the back fire escapes will have to be replaced. They're in pretty bad condition. So that's kind of one of the imminent things we'll need to address beyond the structural issues and kind of the first stage or first step of the rehab. And then there's some pretty significant exterior facade work, masonry work, repointing that would be needed, as well as some roof work on this building. And then I think I have some pictures here. Yeah, so this is one of the, I believe this is the 3rd floor apartment, the kitchen area. And then this is the basement of 178, where the coal chute is basically letting water in 24/7 from the street. So that's kind of imminent repair needed on the interior, the structural component. And then some of the other upstairs, this is actually pre-clean out, so this is not current state as of today. We removed probably about 10 dumpster loads full of trash and debris from all the vacant units the first week or so after we closed on them back in January. So this actually looks a lot better. This is from pretty much day one. And then you can see this is the attorney's unit in very good condition overall, would need pretty minimal updating again down the road. And this is actually my partner. This is a hole that somebody must have taken a sledgehammer to into the city-owned building, and people were breaking in and apparently walking back and forth between the 2 buildings. So he's looking into the city-owned building. We've since temporarily boarded that up to at least temporarily keep people out. 180 Maple. This is one of the bad ones. It's more than likely a complete gut rehab inside. No utilities currently, no heating system, minimal. There is no electric service. A lot of water damage, definitely some mold mitigation is going to be needed first and foremost from the interior perspective, along with pretty much the same structural issues as 178 has in the basement. And on the exterior, masonry work, it has, basically a complete overhaul, top to bottom, roof, the whole 9 yards, as well as the front porches, windows, doors. There are very few salvageable doors or windows on the 2 bad ones. And again, some current conditions as of the last month or 2. In 180, you can see it's kind of been partially gutted, lots of issues inside and out on this one. Pretty much the same story as 182. Gut rehab, Probably slightly worse condition overall than 180 actually. We have some floors that are actually separating from the walls on this one due to ongoing water damage, and some pretty significant roof issues on this one too. We actually had to go in and install kind of a temporary gutter system and partially tarp it, just to try to somewhat mitigate further water damage. Some interior pictures of that one. You can see here where the floor is actually just completely separating from the exterior walls and some of the floors, or some of the upper units. And then 184 is actually kind of an anomaly of these 6 row houses. This is actually almost completely rehab, potentially down to studs. We don't have a ton of good records on this, but somebody did a major renovation, interior renovation about 15 and 20 years ago, multiple owners ago. And so it's actually, we have tenants in there currently, residentially. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, primarily on the outside though. The back porches are getting to be a real safety issue. We actually had to do some temporary work per the request of the city a few weeks ago, kind of shoring up and temporarily supporting the back porches for now until they're able to be torn down and completely rebuilt. There's a abandoned guardrail on the corner of Central Street where it looks like probably several accidents have occurred where people ran the red light and hit it. And there's also some damage that was never repaired from the accident in 2016 after the car crashed into the buildings. Eventually we do plan on doing some interior rehab and renovation on it, but it's pretty minimal. You know, again, most of the things on the interior were done 15 and 20 years ago. So most of the focus for now will be on the exterior stuff. There's still some bowing walls, some windows need to be replaced, some non-historic doors that need to be replaced. And again, the back porches will probably be the most significant cost as a line item for this one. Again, some current day pictures. These are actually not current. These are from a few years ago, one of the previous listings, but it's more or less the same condition now on some of the interior units. And then this last picture is, I think this might have actually been before the fire next door, but some of the older rotting back porches and kind of the rear view of the property. And then just a quick rundown. I'm just checking the time here.
9 minutes.
Thank you. Of what we've done in the last almost exactly 2 months since we closed on it. We've done as much as we can. We cleaned up a lot of trash around the entire block, and it's kind of a losing battle or an ongoing battle. As I mentioned, we've temporarily braced the back porch of 184 Maple at the request of the city and did some emergency HVAC repairs and some other code compliance stuff at the request of the city. The first week or two after we closed on them, we have some temporary lighting and a security camera up just to try to deter any break-ins and activity back there. As I mentioned, we did install a kind of a temporary drainage system over the roof of 182 because that has just open holes pretty much all over the place in the roof and the wall, or walls, front and back walls. We tried to board up the open party wall into the city-owned building. We cut down a rotting tree in the parking lot that was shedding branches and kind of a safety issue. You know, for now, we're kind of just in a holding pattern. You know, we're kind of planning some of the mold mitigation and interior demolition that might be required. We've engaged pretty much every expert for the different areas that need to be addressed. We have a structural engineer that we've engaged and kind of have a general plan of action when the time comes for that. We have a mason a local mason that we'll most likely be using for most of the exterior stuff, as well as a local roofer. We've been working through some of the needed fire protection and sprinkler system upgrades or additions for the middle buildings, which is, you know, another huge interior expense, not necessarily relevant for tonight, but and then we've been going back through some of the old product specs that were handed over by the previous owner, which are very helpful. But we have engaged some historic replacement window and door vendors locally and regionally, working with Mass Save and the Lean program on energy requirements, insulation, HVAC upgrades. And then some of this is a little bit outdated. We've already gone through this with the CPA. We have letters of support with from the neighborhood council, historic commission, and we've had some ongoing conversations for almost a year now, since before we even closed on these things and just started planning potentially acquiring them with mass development. We're working on getting another meeting with them at some point in the next month or so. And even as recently as a few hours ago, we've been working with a few local lenders and banks on planning long-term financing once a bulk of this work is done, and some of the stabilization is done. Trying to get our ducks in a row, kind of plans A, B, C, D, E, F for financing, and you know, depending on what is accessible, what's available for funding, what we do and don't get, and just being able to have a backup plan so we can complete the project one way or the other. You know, some of the stuff I'm guessing you already saw in the application, but basically, for sake of exterior stuff, we're going to be complete, historically accurate restoration of all 4 buildings. Again, a lot of that is going to be sucked up, unfortunately, by the back porches and the egresses that need to be pretty immediately addressed before anything else. And also windows and doors. I think those are the 3 big, expensive ticket items. And then the roof, obviously, or roofs plural, as well as some drainage issues need to be addressed in the parking lot. And then eventually, you know, we're definitely not quite there yet, but, you know, just eventually beautification of the exterior landscaping, and really trying to make it an asset to the Maple neighborhood. And, you know, it definitely sticks out like a sore thumb compared to a lot of the other beautiful buildings in the area. And we're kind of hoping that this kicks off some more development and rehab with other owners or developers. You know, there's only a handful of other buildings in this area that are in really bad shape. We hope this goes, you know, some distance in encouraging more development down the road. And then these are just some other photos. We had trash almost up to our heads in some of the units, and this is all gone now. But we found a bunch of propane tanks, which we assume previous squatters had used for propane heaters. These are all pretty much cleaned out now, so we're just kind of waiting on the next steps. That's really all I have, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. It's interesting, Paul, that on some of the buildings, it looks as though that they were renovated in either the late 1970s or 1980s. So they've gone to pot in the last 40 years, as opposed to something that's been happening continually.
Yeah.
So I guess once again, I have a question on the issue of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So on all 4 of the applications, there is a generic budget of $2,629,000 in each of those applications.
Mm-hmm.
Attached to 178, besides that budget that I mentioned, there's another budget that's been attached to the application that says $1,507,000. And then in some paperwork that wasn't attached to any application, I have some other budget that's $892,000. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm struggling to understand what the cost of the 4 buildings is, because in many cases it says 174 through 184. So it includes the city's buildings.
Yeah, so when we originally started getting quotes from our primary, who will likely be our primary contractor, Co-op Construction on Bernie Avenue, this is back probably in the fall, before we closed on them. They kind of erroneously assumed that it was the entire block, not knowing that, you know, we weren't involved in the 174, 176. So, and I know it probably did not help, it just created more confusion with the applications. Basically what we've had to do, and it's also kind of a moving target because every day we're there, we discover more things, and you know, some things it's like, okay, we don't have to do this, but then something else pops up that we realize we do have to do that we didn't consider before. And as we uncover more things and you know, understands the requirements and the nuances of rebuilding, it's kind of a moving target. I think we have a pretty good grasp on the exterior stuff at this point. I think the only things we're not 100% buttoned down on or more interior things in terms of energy compliance, stretch code, and sprinkler systems. But for the exterior budget, we did have to go through and extrapolate the total budget for all 6 buildings, which they wrote up, and really we're just applying it to the 4 we own right now. And originally, back, you know, mid to late last year, that was, I believe, 892, which you see on the exterior breakdown. That's since partially due to the number of windows that we realized are broken because they were boarded up and the contractor wasn't able to see them. And also just going through and getting more pricing on different items, again, mainly historically compliant windows and doors, and also realizing the extent of some of the masonry issues. And we're also realizing the back porch on 178 is likely a total tear down. That's gone up. The exterior budget on the lower end is actually around, we're projecting 1.3, on the higher side, potentially about 1.45 million. Again, this is kind of a moving target, and it has changed a few times in the last year, but really definitely 2 months since we've actually had full site control and access to see everything we possibly can and kind of uncovering more things. And then the overall budget, or it's kind of been refined a little bit in the last couple of months, the budget for the entire project through and through. And I can send a more complete, up-to-date breakdown of this over to you, but probably just under 2 million for the entire project for the 4 inside and out, and probably roughly 75,000 for the interior work. Again, the one moving target on that being the fire suppression system and life safety component.
For me, what would be helpful if you can get us by middle April, something, you know, for each building, it's estimated total rehab cost, and then roof, windows, masonry, porches, rear fire escapes, you know, whatever's the exterior, so that we have an idea of what are the exterior costs and what's the total cost of each building, given that some are in worse condition than others.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
All right. And Yolanda, do you have a question? And then Clinton.
Yes. I have a question. I see that the neighborhood council that you used was Maple High 6 Corners, but this, if I'm corrected, that is a South End neighborhood council area. Everything on that one side belongs to South End, the other side belongs to 6 High Maple. So if by April, and I checked the GIS to make sure, and it does say South End. So by April, if you can get a letter from the South End Citizens Council, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. I honestly, I'm just making a note of this. Citizens. That's what the Preservation Trust, they told me that was the appropriate neighborhood council to go to. And then they turned it around and called me and sent it to me, you know, a couple days later. So I didn't honestly question it. And it's obviously kind of a weird little triangle where there's like 4 different neighborhoods that kind of intersect there. And I honestly didn't realize that. So if that is the case, I can reach out to the South End Council and talk to them about it.
Yeah, a letter from them in support is always good. What's most important is that you showed us that you at least reached out to them and told them that you were doing a project in their neighborhood. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Clinton, did you have a question, Clinton?
Yes, good. Hi. Thanks, Bob. Hi, Paul. Good job today. So I just want to double check with you, Paul, though, that this is always and forever going to be affordable housing that you're putting in there, correct? I mean, I understand that you have a business going on with the attorney right now, but once we're able to get this back on on track here. This is going to be affordable housing, is that correct?
So we're keeping the answer is no, not for sure. It's going to be at least market rate housing. We applied for the historic historic preservation side of things, which to my knowledge isn't necessarily directly related to affordable housing. I think Tina mentioned that too. I could be wrong. I was under the impression
No,
that
you are correct. So just to clarify, for historic buildings,
No, that's
we
accurate, I
can
know.
help with housing in historic buildings. It does not carry an income limitation
right.
on who can live there. There is another category called community housing that for folks who come to us on that, it means that the residents or the owners must be income eligible people. And interestingly for the committee, we had no community housing applications this funding cycle. So we're going to have to save some money in our housing pot for them because we're required to save 10% every year for housing. And if we don't spend it, we still got to save it. But the answer is that this is not a community housing project, and therefore it's not rental restricted.
Right. And I only asked because of the neighborhood that it's in.
Yeah, and we have no plans. I can say that like unequivocally. It's not going to be luxury housing or luxury apartments. It's going to be at least market rate. And our goal is we're we don't want to turn this into something it doesn't need to be. We want it to be first and foremost historically accurate. That's the goal, and basically get housing back online, safe, rehab, nice housing.
And Paul, are you going to be going after the historic tax credit?
We may actually. I think for the next couple months, our goal is going to be continuing to work with mass development and applying to the UPP program, Utilized Properties Program. We actually did apply last year, even though I knew there was essentially like a 1% chance anything would become of it because we didn't have full site control. It's already a very selective, program anyway. But essentially, that would, if we did have access to funds through that over the next year or so, that would fund the entire interior rehab and build out. We're not banking on that. We have, again, several backup options and different ways we could attack this and approach it from all perspectives, but especially for the interior work. But tax credits and other things are something we're definitely looking into, and we're just unfortunately, it's kind of a slow roll. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing where, for now we're just trying to stabilize as much as we can and then open up the next options as how we can tackle the different stages and phases of the rehab as a whole between the four things.
I mean, you should just though be aware that, with the historic tax credit, you have to do the work to the federal government standards.
Right.
And if you're thinking of applying for that, you may want your architect to be aware of those standards so that you're not changing horses in midstream and finding, oops, we can't do what we thought we were going to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm well aware of it, and that's why I kind of hesitated. We're not 100% sure on that because of that that caveat, which quite honestly we've discussed and have kind of planned that might be a possibility or a strong possibility too. And obviously that's complying with the Secretary of the Interior standards. We do understand that, but I can't give you, unfortunately, right now. As we continue to talk to lenders and try to figure out the next steps here, we're not 100% sure if we're going to pursue that right now.
And that's fine. Yolanda, you have your hand up. You have another question?
Sort of like a statement, because on your narrative, it says we understand how critical the housing crisis is, both in Springfield and nationwide. These renovated units, I know up top it says market rate residential apartments, and that you would be owning the building long term through ownership and management. But when you say that the majority of the housing crisis that's going on in the city of Springfield is because the rents are going extremely high. So I just wanted to make that statement as to like what you wrote here when you're talking about housing crisis. And it's the rental a month that is extremely high for low-income families, especially in that area. And I mean, I understand that the South End is going through that, but that's my piece of it. I wanted to, when you're mentioning those kind of critical issues, it leaves it open to saying, hey, I am going to have some affordable housing, not low, but at least affordable for where the neighborhood is.
Right. And we're keen. I mean, my office is, I can almost walk to these buildings from my office. So, it's, so there's affordable in the actual sense in terms of, the, credits and, the restrictions that go along with that, but then affordable in terms of just appropriateness for the actual rents within the neighborhood, aside from any true restrictions. And I think in general, just getting existing housing that's uninhabitable back online, the supply and demand issue, which is driving rents up, it's kind of the one thing that we can at least minimally address. And again, we haven't decided one way or the other long term whether some of these, at least a portion of the units, will be allocated to true affordable housing and the restrictions that go along with that, or whether they'll all be market rent. Again, there's certainly not going to be luxury apartments, although we do want to make them as luxurious as possible from a materials perspective. They're not going to be marketed as luxury for sure. And we, again, minimally market rent for that block, for that area, and provide safe and affordable, and maybe not the least specific sense in terms of actual restrictions. But again, that we're leaving the door open long term for potentially allocating some, if not all, of the units for true affordable housing, depending on whether we pursue tax credits and other means of getting the project done.
Okay, Clinton, you had a question?
Yes, Paul, and the last question for me, Paul. And so how many units would you be having when you complete?
12.
12. Okay.
And I guess I actually just found this out a couple of weeks ago when I was trying to find old floor plans. So apparently, at least one of these buildings, I don't know if it was 180 or 182, is actually a gigantic, like, single family at one point, at least until the 80s, which I had no idea. It looks, if you walk through it, you see it was just a 3-family. But to all of our investigation, by right, these are 3-family buildings and they'll remain. And again, the caveat to that is there's technically one commercial unit being occupied by an attorney. They're zoned commercially, but eventually that will be a residential unit as well.
So you're going to have, so that means that these are probably going to be like 1-bedroom kind of units if you're going up to 12?
No, it's actually going to be a mix. So I submitted, and I apologize that we literally have thousands of pages of documents and current condition floor plans and proposed renovation floor plans. So it'll actually be a mix. There already is a mix of up to 4 bedrooms in some of these units, and all the way down to the attorney's unit, which is really a gigantic studio apartment. That's kind of a moving target as well, because to do some of the proposed renovations, we would be moving walls around, even though I believe they've been tentatively approved, over the last few years by the previous owner. The modifications and the different floor plans and slightly changing bedroom counts, we're gonna have to play that by ear depending on energy code and what we can do in terms of removing walls and what that means long term for energy compliance with the new stretch codes that are coming into play later this year. So again, we kind of have to slow play that, but there already are units up to 4 bedrooms, and some of them will be 1 to 3 beds as well.
Okay, and will this all be residential, or will it be a mixture of commercial and residential?
It will eventually all be residential. Quite frankly, my day job, I'm a commercial broker, and there's basically no office market really anywhere, but especially on Maple Street in Springfield, and that's not the highest and best use of that space, the one existing commercial unit. So that will eventually, that's kind of the last phase, and the attorney, is on board with us in an agreement that eventually we're going to let him keep practicing because he's a great asset for now, but eventually that will become a residential unit and all 12 will be fully residential apartments.
Okay, and Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, just one question to make sure I can understand. You've got 4 applications, separate applications, each at 300,000, right? For each of the units, each of the buildings get 300 units. That's 1.2 million. And I think I heard you say your inside outside budget probably going to be, around 2 million. Is that fair? Okay.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
you may get us more information as
Yeah.
we go on. I just wanted to get those numbers in context. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, I apologize. I threw this together. I kind of the last minute realized, oh, I have to submit 4 different applications, which meant, quadrupling the amount of printouts. And I'm sure some stuff got lost in translation because of the 4 different applications. So I would have taken more time to kind of extrapolate and not just include that blanket estimate that included the city-owned buildings as well. I apologize for that, but we will break that out into specific costs for each item.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it might be worth your while.
Any other questions from committee members? So not seeing any hands up. Thank you, Paul.
One thing, one last thing. Hold on one second. Now, I'm not sure if Tina's on or not. Is the structure where the accident happened, and I was talking to Karen about this earlier, because I know that that light is extremely bad. Is there going to be a assessment of that area with the red lights of traffic, the way all that turns, because you're
Well,
adding
that's
12 units? So
well, that's not his problem. That's the city's problem.
is that the money that she's asking for? Is that going to go to that
Her money?
for
No,
the
no,
foundation piece?
Well, so I guess I'm confused what your question is, Yolanda. Tina's building, the 2 buildings that the city owns are not the ones that are right by the intersection. It's the one.
So it's more in?
Well, no.
So 178's at the corner and 176 is in the middle?
No. It starts with 174 and 176. Those are the 2 city-owned buildings, and they are next to Colony Court, the apartment building. They are closer to, let's call it, the State Street end of this complex.
Oh, okay. So it's not in that same.
It's the same. Well, of course, it's the same block. It's 6 connected buildings.
Right.
Paul owns the ones that are next to Central Street going inward. And then Tina owns the last 2. The city owns the last 2 in that complex. So Central Street abuts 184 Maple Street.
So it's where the drive where you drive in. It's that area where there's you can get in there.
The drive, so you get to the parking 2 ways. There is a driveway that goes off of Central Street behind 184, and there is a narrow driveway between 174 and Colony Court that goes down like a little hill.
Right.
That's the city-owned building.
Okay.
So if your question's regarding 174, Tina's not on.
176.
Well, Tina's, well,
She's
170.
not on. Tina's no longer on.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and I guess just one passing question, Paul. Are you interested in putting in a proposal for the 2 city-owned buildings?
So I guess yes, in a nutshell, yes, still, certainly more so before the fire. But basically we don't really know because we haven't actually just been talking to Tina over the last few days about now it's somewhat secured and tarped, the city allowing us access to bring our people in, our contractors and our structural engineer to just actually get eyes on those buildings on the interior for the first time, to see what could be done, what's salvageable. So it's a big question mark. I'd say in general, yes, but with a lot of gray area as to how it could be possibly feasible. Okay. But yes, considering that they directly abut ours and, it actually, can either certainly improve the value of ours and the project or detract from it if it remains in the current state or demolished potentially, then, it's really hard to say because they're really bad. So.
Right. So is that so it is the same property from what she's doing for Tina and what he's doing. It is that same.
It appears to be this, well, it is the same block. There's six separate deeds. The city owns the
That's my
two,
question.
so yeah, there's technically 6 different properties, but they have shared walls, basically firewalls or party walls.
That was my question.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we go into our regularly scheduled meeting. Karen had sent out the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll take the vote. Steve,
Yes.
Yolanda,
Yes.
Gloria,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Willie. Willie, you there? You're muted. You are. No, well, Willie's not voting, so,
I've moved to yes.
okay. And Bob is a yes. All right, the next item is on the contract with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So Karen, do you want to briefly explain that situation and what we need to do?
Okay. This is like the never-ending saga, this contract. As of today, I have different news. I did speak with procurement, and there may be another way that we can execute this contract by invoice, pay on invoice for it without all of the additional requirements. But I don't have confirmation on that yet. So what I originally was going to suggest is that, as you know, the city is requiring $1 million on a low bid $10,000 contract. And the insurance company, as well as Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, came to a compromise to reduce the limits that the city would be insured to 100,000. While at the same time, Pioneer Valley would maintain their $1 million liability policy on their employees. And so we could put that into the contract by a vote if the committee chooses to reduce the insurance requirement on this contract to 100,000. You can vote and do that. And so that was, I guess I should be full disclosure here. When I gave that suggestion to Tom Moore in the legal department, he said, yes, the committee can vote to do that. But once it gets to the different signatures, which would be several departments that have to sign off, it's possible it could get stopped in any one of those, which it doesn't seem likely because it is a low risk contract, but there's that that was thrown out there as a possibility. Again, I did speak with Lauren in procurement today, and there may be another way we can execute contracts with Pioneer Valley. So I guess to cover both bases, if you wanted to vote to reduce the insurance limits, you could do that today. And then in 2 weeks, when we come back, I would have the update for you regarding the other. Anyone have any questions on this?
So in the meanwhile, we don't have a contract with Pioneer Valley Planning.
Correct. And they chose not to pursue one with the requirements that the city is asking. Even though this committee voted to pay the premium, Pioneer Valley did not want to take that as a condition because it doesn't resolve the overall problem within the city that they use Pioneer Valley frequently, different departments. So that was not a solution to them to pay the premium. But at the same time, the committee did vote to extend the contract to 10,500, which is where it is right now. And I guess you could just leave it there. And if they don't use the money, it would just come back instead of dropping it down to 10,000 again. I guess that's really up to you, how you want to
Either
handle
that
that.
or we will have paid for an extra $5,000 worth of advice on the Secretary of the Interior standards.
Right, yeah.
But I guess
I
I'm
mean-
confused is, so we met with Shannon Walsh yesterday. How is that happening if we have no contract?
Because she's using a separate code to put these on hold,
Yeah.
really as a favor to us, because
Oh.
this is since October, this is going on. So she's gonna get to the contracts that are pressing from 2023.
Yeah.
But asking her to do the historic homes program or anything from this year, I think would be unreasonable to expect her to do without a contract in place.
Gloria?
Yes,
I think that at this point, we should wait, instead of making a motion that may be null and void in 2 weeks because of a potential solution with procurement, we might as well wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks isn't gonna make that much of a difference.
I second that.
I don't disagree with you, Gloria. And because we are coming back in 2 weeks, I would tend to kind of say maybe okay. If we're gonna wait a month, I would say let's
Oh,
at least shore up our options. Because we
True.
don't, even if you voted for it, we don't have to do it.
mm-hmm.
If there's another solution for that contract. So even if you voted for it, if there was another better solution, we could also do that. So it's totally up to you, however, which way you want to go.
Well, if people want to have a motion, someone needs to make it and second it. If people don't want to have a motion, then no one should make a motion and there won't be anything to second and we will move on.
Right.
So I guess if there's anyone who feels that we should be voting on lowering the insurance limits tonight, make a motion. If I don't hear a motion made, we will move on to the next item. So I'm not hearing anyone, so we will move on to the next item. Okay, the administrator's update.
Continuing saga, we'll know more 2 weeks. Do I have anything, Bob? I don't know
Yeah,
if
you
I
had
have.
something about Abby Brook on the agenda, on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really anything to update at this point. We're waiting for the Conservation Commission to draft up a conservation restriction to send over to Mass Audubon to kind of work with, and then the committee kind of needs to decide what we want in there or not, once we have the draft. And that's where it sits, so.
Okay. All right. I guess on a different matter, but still administration, did you speak to Tom Moore, our attorney, regarding if we need to do anything special regarding the CPA award on 77 Maple Street?
I spoke with Pat Burns.
Wow.
And and he agreed that as long as we contact the grantee and let him know that we're
Yeah.
withdrawing from the contract, that's fine. There really isn't anything else to.
Oh, okay, fine. So that'll be on the next agenda then. Yeah. This is just to bring the committee up to date. We gave a grant several years ago to develop Springfield for 77 Maple Street renovation. They never did the renovation. They have not been terribly communicative with Karen, and they just sold the property to someone else. And clearly, our money does not just automatically transfer. So we will be officially voting to reclaim it at the April meeting.
So why
Okay.
can't we do that now?
Because it's not on the agenda for a vote, and so,
Okay.
okay. So the only other thing is our next meeting is April 2nd. What I want to suggest is that we plan on meeting on April 16th. Then our regular meeting is on May 7th, and that we meet on May 21st. I am hopeful that we will finish our process by our first meeting in June, send the report to City Council, and we can then take off July and August.
Cool.
So if people are willing to do that, work twice in April, twice in May, we will not have meetings in July and August, assuming we finish our final voting on June 4th.
Would you say the date again in April, the 16th?
Yeah, the 16th, the third Tuesday in April, third Tuesday in May. You know, what we normally do is
Okay,
we will be meeting, under this scenario, we will meet with the remaining applicants on April 2nd. On April 16th is when we come in with our top 8 projects, put them out on a spreadsheet and discuss them all. Then when we start on our May 7th meeting, we will actually start voting on recommendations, and we will vote either until we run out of energy, like to 8 o'clock, or until we start to run out of money and the projects are all in the same class. If you remember last year, we then came back with our next preferences and we voted some more. And sometimes we have some questions and that delays voting for, sometimes it takes 3 meetings to finish the recommendations.
that's fine.
That's
Okay.
a lot.
Sounds good.
What made you pick the 18th
The
as opposed to
18th?
a Tuesday?
No, it's not the 16th.
16.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Everything is still a Tuesday. It's the first
Right.
and third Tuesday. And then we will take a vacation for the summer. The other thing is, I've already spoken to the city council president. If we can get him the recommendations in early June, he will make sure that city council, it gets on the city council agenda before they go on their abbreviated summer schedule, which starts in July. So we may be able to get then the applicants' contracts being worked on in the summer. So we could move up the process for everybody by a couple of months if we work a little harder now and rest in the summer.
Sounds good.
Bob, did Councillor Fenton also suggest that the CPA applications are taken as at a special meeting? So it's just our.
I did not discuss that with him. That's his preference. I mean, whatever he decides to do is fine. He did not say that to me.
Okay, maybe he didn't remember that that's how we've done it in the last few years.
No,
Yeah.
but that's how Council President Letterman did it. Before that, they were just taking it at a regular
council.
city council meeting. So I don't care how city council chooses to do it. It's their prerogative. I will be there regardless.
All right.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
Before that, Bob, just want to
Yep.
let you know that on the 2nd, I'll be coming back from a trip. My plane gets in at 5 o'clock at Bradley.
Yep.
So I may be a little late. I'll try to tune in on my way in.
Yeah.
Just to let you know that.
Fine. Well, thank you, Steve. I mean, the good thing with our Zooming is we're now recorded. So like Juanita, who couldn't be here tonight because she's out of state, will watch tonight's meeting on Zoom and be able to see what the discussion was. So
That's great.
if you're here, you're here. What is most important is when we actually start the vote, and that will be starting in May.
I should be around.
It may be an issue for me on April 2nd,
Okay. Well, as long as we
but
have,
I can catch Facebook.
yeah. Well, clearly we need a quorum so we can vote on a few things. But for those that can't be here, you can always watch the recording.
I'll let you know in a few days when things straighten out on what the plans are.
Okay, very good. So,
So when you have the city council meetings, we don't have to be there, Bob, right? Just you?
that's correct. I make the presentation. Sometimes other committee members have shown up just to be there, but you don't have to be there.
Okay.
No, you
Wait,
should go. You should go.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, all in
Second.
favor? All in favor, wave. All right, thank you so much. It was
Bye,
a
everybody.
Good job. Good night.
Good
Take care.
Right.
All right, take
Yeah,
care.
bye.
Bye.